we're ready to start. So good morning, good evening, and well, good afternoon, everyone. It depends on where are you based now. So here we are finally. We are now ready to embark on this new exciting learning journey. So I'm glad to see you all here. As always, feel free to indicate your time zone next to your name. It allow us also to have a better understanding of where are you based now, and also to allow us to go ahead. So welcome everyone to this eagerly anticipated course from research to policy, evidence-based policy making for decent work. As some of you know, so last week we had the first onboarding session to get to know each other, but also to familiarize ourselves with the campus platform and also with the agenda. But finally today we officially start this new online course, which is, as you know, jointly offered by the research department of the International Labour Organization, together with the employment policy and analysis program of the ITC ILO, the training center of the ILO. So for those of you who were not able to join us last week, my name is Vincenzo Fucci. I am the activity manager for this course, together with my colleague from Turin and the rest of the team from the ILO led by Naren Prasad. We are thrilled to guide you throughout this enriching learning experience over the next 4 weeks until the 31st of May. As then we will be further presented by Naren in few minutes. The aim of this course, as you know, is simple but let's say profound. So to equip all of you with a comprehensive understanding of research and data skills for evidence-based policy making, specifically in the field of social justice and the promotion of decent work. So throughout this long learning path, we will be able to explore cutting-edge research methodologies, understand how to integrate empirical evidence into the dynamic landscape of the labor market. And so we are ready to start. Today, to kick off this new program, we have the honor to have with us Dagmar Walter, who is a senior advisor at the ILO research department, and Bert Mueller, who is a program manager of the employment policy and analysis program here at the ITC ILO, so to officially inaugurate this opening session. Then following the remarks, we'll have the opportunity with Naren, who is the head of education and training at the ILO Research, to delve into the training. So he'll provide you with a brief overview of the course and also with the guidelines. And finally, we're going to have the opportunity to start discussing the ILO decent work agenda. Just a few things to say before I wrap up. I want to express my profound gratitude to the team and also to each of you for being with us today. So without further ado, let's officially start this course, and I would like to give the floor to Dagmar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vincent, and a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. I'm really thrilled and really quite excited to see so many of you who have been selected to join this course and to be with us for this month of May. It already looks like it's going to be a wonderful and great and very enriching edition of this course and training, really, that we do, and we have called it this time From Research to Policy, and really looking into evidence basis for policy making in the area of decent work and to favor social justice. And I'm really happy to see, I think overall you're supposed to be about 30 participants, and I saw there are, constituents represented here from some almost 20 countries. Also noticed that there is large participation from the Caribbean, so quite happy about that. It's one of my former homes. And I really want to also say that I'm here to welcome you and open this course on behalf of our director, Rick Sammons, who is the director of the ILO Research Department globally. He is currently on mission, so I'm delighted to make his initial remarks on behalf of him. And of course, I mean, this course is, has evolved, I would say, for some 50 plus years. The first edition was in 1968 already. And it took place as organized by the ILO's International Institute for Labor Studies in those days. And then when it was taken over by the research department, I think in 2014, as the institute was dissolved. But this course, as you can see, has had it's a key place where we bring constituents together to discuss different aspects on decent work and social justice, and really focus on, the many sources of information that there are, be it produced by the ILO with the constituents in the member states, and also then how to, so to say, exploit them, right, for evidence-based policy making. So maybe just also a few words about upfront where we are. What are the new developments, I would like to say. Actually, the new Director General of the International Labour Organization, Mr. Gilbert Ongbu, he took over last year, October. He launched the idea of a global coalition for social justice. And it has now been endorsed by the governing body in October last year. And this coalition is really there to heighten, emphasize the social dimension of the 2030 agenda and the SDGs. I'm sure you're familiar with, and the implementation, in your countries. But it's really to bring together the forces in the international community with the member states to, as a coalition, really, I would say, deal with and advocate for issues around addressing inequalities, discrimination, and exclusion, really also to realize labor rights as human rights, and ensuring human dignity and meeting basic needs. Also to expand access to and to capabilities to provide freely chosen employment and also sustainable enterprise and entrepreneurship. And providing protection and building resilience. I think this is really one of the keystones as we navigate different transitions in our era. And that is about just transitions as well, and the social dimension about sustainable development and trade and investment, and of course of how to use social dialogue in all of this. So alongside this global coalition on social justice, the ILO, the office, the research department, in collaboration with other departments, is developing a report on the state of social justice in the world. And it's planned to come out in 2025 next year, ahead also of the Social Development Summit that the UN plans to hold next year. I also wanted to mention another new development that you might be aware of, and that is that the International Labour Conference in June 2023 added safety and health as one of the fundamental principles and rights at work. Now, occupational safety and health has, in the normative body of the International Labour Organization, has several conventions related to it. And the constituents selected 2 out of these to be part of the fundamental principles and rights and the conventions attached to it. And this is the Occupational Safety and Health Convention number 155 from 1981. And then also the Promotional Framework for Occupational Safety and Health, which was adopted in 2006 and carries the number 187. I think this is very interesting to complement the other 4 dimensions of the fundamental principles and rights at work. Also, last year, the conference adopted a new recommendation concerning apprenticeships, more in the area than of skills and skilling and lifelong learning. So really, the course that we are opening today aims to provide some elements on these issues and how to bring research and data to policymakers. And again, I want to really congratulate you on having made it and be selected for this training course. Maybe a few words also on you know, how this course, what it aims for, right? And the aim is really to help incorporate processes in order to improve evidence generation and use in policymaking, advocacy, and service provision. So really to how to translate this into where you sit, where you work, your function, and how you can take it forward. And this really can be around, you know, using case studies, research papers, guidelines, be it the conventions and recommendations I mentioned, but how to use that and as a knowledge basis in the post policy and advocacy work you are you know, called to do in your functions. And we attempt to use innovative training methods to improve skills and knowledge of individuals, to use this wide array really of evidence sources to make more effective and just evidence-based policies. Also to use specific strategies that will be discussed to influence policies in the area as identified, and also to, you will see, favor the drafting of policy briefs on topics that are, you know, useful and fruitful to you. So really at the end of the training, we hope that you will have built your skills and knowledge for evidence-based policymaking, advocacy and service provision for decent work. Also to explore the policymaking, advocacy and services development processes, while specifically focusing on how to undertake and draft policy briefs for influencing. And I wish to also say that with this in mind, the main aim of the course is to prepare you for leadership roles that you may already be holding or aiming for in the area of labor and social policies. And maybe you have already been, or in the future, you might represent your country or your group at some of the ILO's governing institutions, meaning the International Labour Conference or the ILO governing body. So we hope also that this can, you know, prepare you for that. Now, this course will run in around 4 weeks, and I will keep in touch also with you and also with Naren in particular, and also, of course, our colleagues from the International Training Center will be there. And I really want to say how thankful and happy we are to organize this edition with the ITC in Turin. And I am in particular interested in hearing back, especially towards the end, you know, what policy topics, you know, you are picking up and wanting to work more around as individuals, and to hear about that towards the end of the course, and also to look into the feedback you might have. And first and foremost, I really wish to encourage you to engage intensely in a participatory way, because I always find that the biggest richness of these trainings is in the exchange between the participants and all the wealth of knowledge and also information that you bring. And together we bring a lot to the table, so I hope we can walk away much richer and building our knowledge base. Thank you so much, and looking forward to keeping in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dagmar. Thank you for your kind words, and also especially for this insightful introduction to the course. Now I would like to give the floor to Bert Mueller. As already say, he's the program manager of the Employment Policy and Analysis Program here at the ITC-ILO.
Sure, thank you, Vincenzo, and also thank you, Dagmar, for those welcoming words to all of us. Well, this is always exciting, you know, starting a new course. It's always nice to see new faces, and so welcome to all of you and having you on board. Now it's of course we're now all, I think, used to these facilities in Zoom and doing these things online, but it's nice to be together, and I hope you will have the the opportunity to create a bit of a community over these next 4 weeks, to get to know each other, to learn from each other, and so on, as you go through this course together, and in a team spirit, so to speak. From our side, again, as Vincenzo said, I'm the manager of the employment team here in Turin. We are very thrilled to be organizing this courses together with the research department at the ILO in Geneva. And for us, it's also a strategic partnership to be linking up and then trying to launch this course in this forum, which is a bit of a new modus operandi, so to speak, for this course for us. As you've heard from Dagmar, the course has been running for a while, but now we're trying to do some things in a new way to make to revamp it a little bit through this collaboration. And so I hope this will also make it a bit more of an exciting experience also for you. From my side personally, I can very much identify with the topic of the course, from research to policy. I see some familiar faces here, but some of you might, or at least one of you, I think I see there, Rifta. No, in a previous job, I used to be the ILO's employment specialist in South Africa and Pretoria. Now, as an employment specialist, the role is to actually promote employment policies. And there I can tell you from really first-hand experience how vital it is to link data, to link evidence with the right policy. You can have so many policy processes where beautiful policy drafts are created by some consultants, but that actually have very little resemblance to the reality on the ground, where you don't really actually know which are the sectors, what is the labor market situation in a particular context that you're working with, that then needs to give rise to the right policy solutions. So that is always a very difficult issue to solve, and we are trying very much with this course to help you with that, to give you some of the tools, to give you some insights how this can be done in a better way, and how to actually come up with policies that are indeed based on evidence that can speak to the realities on the ground. So I don't want to keep you much further. I know that you are up for a treat over the next 4 weeks. Your main resource person will be Naren, who will be the next speaker, but I know he's a passionate speaker, a very eloquent speaker who will guide you as your lead resource person through the process. So you're in for a treat having him on board. Beyond that, from our side in Turin, you will have Vincenzo, who you've already heard, and then Sophie, who you might have seen some emails from, and you saw her, I'm sure, in the onboarding, that they will help you. Maybe here and there you might even see my face if you have to. I might contribute here and there, but it will be mostly up to them to guide you through the program. But I'm absolutely certain that you'll have some real wealth of experience and wealth of insights that are waiting for you. So also from my side, congratulations for being on board, and welcome to all of you, and wishing you all the best for these coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Bert. Indeed, thank you for your warm welcome, and also for underscoring the significance of networking throughout the course, and also emphasizing the importance of this new valuable partnership between the ILO and the ITC ILO in offering this course. Okay, so let's go ahead. We can now give the floor to Naren Prasad, as already says, the head of education and training at the ILO Research, and together with the rest of the team, we will guide you throughout this online course. So over to you, Naren. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincenzo. Thank you, Dagmar and Ben Müller. Thank you so much for blessing this training. And we can start now. So once again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all, wherever you are. I look forward to engaging with you, taking this training further. Based on our discussions last week we had on Thursday, there are some new faces, some new people joining in. It will be great if you can just put on your cameras right now, so that Vincenzo can take a nice screenshot, all right, for our archives. When we'll be another 10, 15, 20 years down the line, we'll be looking at these beautiful photos of yours. So if you can just put on your cameras, and I can see and greet you all. Beautiful. Yes, Andre.
Okay, I am really struggling to put on my camera. Maybe because I am the senior citizen in the group.
No, we are all senior citizens, you know. Voila, we can see you. Great. Vincenzo? Right, great. All right. So once again, a very warm welcome to you all. I think you are all geared up towards exploring a few new tools and instruments that ILO will be providing you, and how to engage in political debates, political issues, policy development, policy making, policy negotiations, using research, data, best practices or good practices, and how you can build your countries better, as Dagmar was mentioning, and promote decent work in social justice. We are all here with the same purpose of building our countries. All right. Just to get connected with everybody. I know we have discussed with you, most of you, especially my fellow counterparts from the Caribbean islands, who I mean, it's early morning there. They are connecting now. But some of you I have not met. We have not yet introduced based on last week. I know there's Beatrix there. Morlon, Anatole, I'm not sure whether we spoke last week. Who else is there? Christophe. Sheldon has joined, Christian, and who else is new? Yeah, those are a few people. If you just can very briefly introduce yourselves, please. Starting from Beatrice, maybe.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Oh.
Hello. Is
Okay,
there
you can
any
go ahead,
other
sorry.
lead, please?
Vincenzo, you want to take the lead here?
Yeah, I can start.
Sure, okay. I can take the lead. So, okay, Beatrice, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. I am Beatriz from Portugal. I worked more than 20 years in the public employment service in Portugal, but now I'm working in the Ministry of Labor within the ILO affairs. So, but I'm pretty new in this one. But I'm also doing my master degree, so I will link both the information for both issues, the working and also the dissertation. I don't know if I shall say something else about myself at this point, or is this okay?
Yeah, also maybe some expectation about the course if you want, otherwise it's fine. I mean, yeah.
I have a huge expectation about this course, because I really would like to, to use information for my dissertation and also to propose something in the ministry. So if it's possible, I will see.
Okay, great. So for sure we will meet your expectation. Don't worry. Okay, thank you, Beatrice. So maybe now we'd like to give the floor to Andre, because you were not with us on during the onboarding session last week.
Hi, morning, everybody. I am Andre Vincent Henry, and we have quite a cohort, even a posse from the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies. And I want to thank you, Vincenzo, and the team at ITC for facilitating us. This course is important for us. We are grappling with some of the complexities of the changes in the world of work, and in particular the Caribbean labor market. And as the only school in the Caribbean that is dedicated to labor studies, we think that we have a particularly important role to play in this regard, in helping to operate as almost as a thought leader in providing options for making sure that the labor market functions in a way that contributes to social justice. Incidentally, I'm a former member of staff at the ILO. So this is a new incarnation for me. So it's really great to be here. I was as I said, I am the senior citizen in the group. I was at the ITC in Turin in 1998, before some people were born in this group.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Andre. Actually, it's our pleasure to have the Cipriani College on board. And for sure, I mean, we're looking forward to welcoming you back to the ITCLO. So we're waiting for welcoming you back. So now I think that, yeah, I would like to give the floor to Tara from Iran. I think you were not introducing yourself on Friday. You were not with us on Friday.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry that I was absent in the last session because I couldn't make it, and I was busy with my illness. I'm so sorry. This is Tahera Ramazani. You can call me Tara from Iran. I work for Labor and Social Security Institute affiliated to Labor Ministry. I am education manager in the LSSI, Labor and Social Security Institute, and I have 21 year management experience in field of various area of the labor and social security, and I have been on site in the ILO in 2050 year, and I was attended for a decent workflowship course, and I'm here to learn more, and I'm ready to learn and make policy based on evidences. And I'm glad to see everyone here.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Tara, and welcome to this course. Yosina, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm sorry because I didn't got for last week, yeah, because this is my first time. I am Yosina. I'm from Indonesia. I am in Ministry of Manpower in Center for Employment Policy Development. I am as a policy analyst, and I hope from this course I can get more my knowledge about how to do research for policy evidence. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you, Yosina. And let's go ahead. I think that Christian, you are not on board with us during the last session. Am I right?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My apologies for missing your last session. My name is Christian. I previously worked at the Ministry of Labor Administration for 9 years, where I worked with unions and employers as a conciliation officer. I currently work at Cipriani College University team as an industrial relations specialist and academic staff member as well. And I'm pretty interested in this course to actually build my capacity in doing research, especially in the context of policy, which is in alignment with what we are doing at the college.
So thank you, Christian. So welcome to you as well.
You.
So another colleague from the Cipriani College, our pleasure. Next to you on my screen, I can see Christophe Henry.
Hi, good day, everyone. My name is Christophe Henry. I'm an associate researcher at Cipriani College, but I'm also a knowledge management practitioner with an interest in interinstitutional knowledge creation and utilization, especially for multilateral development banks. So my interest is from taking knowledge created from research through to policy solutions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you to you, Christophe. So if I'm not wrong, no, maybe we're missing just someone who is connecting from iPhone. I don't know who is behind the name iPhone. Maybe I'm missing some. Okay. Yeah, please, if you want to take just the floor to introduce yourself. I don't, yeah. We cannot hear you. You should unmute yourself.
Apologies.
Yeah, no, don't
Sorry.
worry.
No, I think I logged off and then I forgot to write my name all over again. Anyway, my name is Cindy Santana. I am based in Botswana. I represent an organization called Business Botswana. For those that don't know, Business Botswana is a business representative body and a private sector organization here in Botswana, so sort of like Chamber of Commerce. So basically my role here, I'm actually the Human Resource and Enterprise Development Programs Officer here. And part of the HR part of it is that I provide HR and industrial relations advisory services and basically offer guidance to Business Botswana members on various human resource matters, so forth. So, and ensuring that, we comply to the labor regulation, labor laws. I also sit on the labor review committee meetings that are currently reviewing the Employment Act, the Botswana Employment Act. So I think this course would be very good for me, in terms of just, gaining that and gaining more knowledge on how to do research, policy, and so forth on the various policies in Botswana. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you to you. And again, welcome to this new learning experience together.
Hi, Vincenzo. You forgot Marlon Anatol and Colin Bartholomew.
Okay, yeah, please. Am I missing anyone?
Yeah, Marlon and Colin.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Okay, hi, I'm Marlon. I like to be the back of the class, so thanks, Vincenzo, for trying to help me out. But Andre is actually my senior at Cipriani College, where I sit as the Dean of Research. So I'm really looking forward to this interaction because we deal a lot with social justice, world of work, decent work, and I'm trying to increase my skill level when it comes to policy development. So I think there's a lot for me to gain from this course, and happy to be here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Marlon. I hope that now I'm not missing anyone else. Colin as well.
Colin.
Yeah,
Colin,
sorry,
yes.
Colin.
Hi, good morning, Vincenzo. Colin Bartholomew, good to be here. I know we had initial introductions on Friday last. So once again from Cipriani College, in addition to Andre, I also defer to Marlon Anatol and Sheldon Salino. And I'm happy to be here with the rest of my colleagues. As we said, the organization is currently, steeped in a trajectory of research and policy, adaptation and formulation, implementation as well. So as part of the team, it's important that we look at the network of good practice and really look to tap into that to uplift, especially in the Caribbean region. So happy to be here and also happy to network with each and every one of you from around the world. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Colin. Thank you so much. So last but not least, Christina, I saw that you were able to turn on the microphone. So please, the floor is yours. Yeah, Christine, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. My name, can you hear me? My network was a bit bad. My name is Christine Netomwich-Rembeka. I serve as the head of programs with the Zesha Impact, an organization that focuses on skilling youth into entrepreneurship and work. I am also the co-founder of Nurturing Education Solutions, and this one aims at improving the learning outcomes of learners in both primary and secondary levels of education. So I was motivated to come in here because we're implementing a program on social justice is one of the things we're looking at. But also above all, I intend to pursue my PhD soon. So I felt that this would be a very good thing for me to start with. So that I get ready for that very big journey. and also be able to incorporate whatever I've learned into the day running of our M&E systems. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Christine. I think that now I'm not missing anyone else. So you all had the opportunity to introduce yourself. As you know, I mean, I'm sorry, but last week we had the session with the first 20 participants. So I'm still struggling to remember who was able to introduce himself or herself. Anyway, so I think that now we can go ahead. So Naren, over to you, and we can officially now start with the focus on the agenda and the rest of the course.
Thank you, Vincenzo. Thank you. I have on my list 30 participants based on what we did last week and today. So 30 altogether. And I'm also glad to see the senior, what you call senior citizens who will enlighten us, in fact, in the name of Andre and Marlon and the others, of course. But also on the other hand, there are quite a young cohort of learners here who are pursuing their masters, their PhDs. I hear a lot, even last week, somebody from South Africa who's finishing an MBA, and today we had Beatrix finishing her masters, Ryan finishing her masters. So it's great. On the one hand, we have the senior citizens, or those who have lots of experience, and then we will pass the baton to our young youth who will take us forward with the research and data questions. Lovely. Okay, what we will do now is to move on, and I will explain to you why we are here for 4 weeks together, what we'll be doing, what we will present to you, what you'll be required to do. But as I mentioned, and I think as Vincenzo mentioned and Bernd mentioned, this is a very much of a teamwork that we have done with ITC and at ILO here at the research department under the guidance of Dagmar Walter, who is here. I'm speaking under her control here. And of course, my team, Beatrice and Bhavika, who has been instrumental in making sure things are done as far as the modules and the materials are concerned, and the administrative side, not forgetting Sophie and Vincenzo, who has been leading their work with the eCampus and registering all the people. So thank you very much, right? What I will do, I'll try to share my screen with you, and we'll take you through the training objectives why we are here, so that you are able to understand better what you have to do for the 4 weeks that's coming. All right, what I'll do, so once again, welcome to this training. I think Vincenzo mentioned to you just before we start, where are you joining us from? If you can just put in the chat box so that we know where you are currently now located. 1 minute. Who wants to read the replies?
Yeah, sure, I can go ahead. As I was there, yeah. In any case, I mean, we have a lot of colleagues from Trinidad and Tobago, but I was quite sure about it. So we have, yes, Tunisia, Portugal, New Delhi, Philippines, USA, Boston, Sarah, some colleagues from Africa, Botswana and Namibia, again, Trinidad, so Jamaica, another representative from Caribbean, Barbados. Okay, Clara, she's joining from Geneva, Indonesia, Uganda. Okay, great. Again, Jamaica. So a lot of colleagues from Caribbean, India as well. We have a good representative, good number of representatives from India as well. Lithuania, Senegal, and Iran, Fatmeh and Tara. So we should have 2 or 3 colleagues from Iran, if I'm not wrong. So, and again, for sure, Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you, Donald, for closing the session with Trinidad as well. Thank you so much. And also, don't forget, I mean, just we are going now to introduce ourselves, but also let's use also the eCampus platform, the forum again to introduce ourselves, and also expectation. If you have something else to add, feel free also to use the platform. So
Beautiful.
over to you, Naren.
Thank you, Vincenzo. So we can see, I mean, you are from everywhere connected, and thanks to this technology, we are able to follow this training wherever you are. I think over 20 countries we have listed. So that's amazing, the wealth of knowledge and experience that is here in this webinar. It's fantastic. Now I want to do a poll here. If Bhavika, can you take over here?
Yes, sure, Naren. So if you move ahead, Naren, there will be 3 options up ahead, and we would request the participants to use the pop-up on their screen and answer the responses.
All right. Bhavika? I think, yeah, Bhavika, you hear us, Bhavika? All right, I can see most of the people you are quite excited. That's great, and we all hope to keep your excitement level every day, every week that we'll do this training, so that your excitement is as high as today. So today's agenda is basically the following. What we will do today is we'll introduce the training to you. We'll tell you what is the real objectives. I think Dagmar already mentioned briefly what we intend to do, how we will deliver this training to you, what are the learning materials that we are having. And I think Vincenzo already mentioned about how to use the eCampus. We can go very briefly once again if we have to. We also want you to share your expectations and hopes and questions that you would have regarding this training, and identify some, of course, our group guidelines for creating a comfortable and working environment, so that we are able to talk and discuss in a very comfortable environment. So that's what we will do here today. And I think you have met the team already here. Bhavika, Beatrice, Bent, you have just met him, Vincenzo, Sophie, and myself. So this is the core team leading this training, of course, with the oversight of Dagmar from my end here. So the design of this training has been in such a way where we try to first understand your needs. I mean, last week when we were talking to you, what are some of the policy questions you were interested, and I had noted the issues that you had mentioned about migrant women, gender policy reviews. Narendra had mentioned about child labor, persons with disabilities, labor compliance. Sarah had mentioned the green economy, marginalized people, business and human rights. Ryan had mentioned occupational safety and health, vulnerable people, many people interested in occupational safety and health in the agricultural sector, influencing policies. Somebody was interested in IT policy, violence and harassment from South Africa. So there are a lot of issues, and these are the issues that we will use it to take this training further. And there was also a selection of participants based on what your CVs were submitted. One part was done by the ITC and the other part by the research department. So there was a lot of demand. We had to restrict the number of participants based on certain criteria. And in this training, you have seen that the agenda, there are specific issues that we will be bringing more in detail about national employment policies, the informal sector, among other issues. And then we will be looking into the green economy, the labor market, how to interpret data, what are the indicators. So some of the specific issues that we will bring based on the thematic issues that we have identified. In the eCampus, we also mentioned that there was a specific area for you to have a look in terms of your documentation. There were these pre-reading materials are available to understand better what ILO does, what are the issues. Now, then we will deliver you this training for the 4 weeks that is coming, and then we will have specific follow-ups where we will support you to complete your policy briefs. Remember that one of the main aim of this training is to help you draft a policy brief. Then that policy brief will have the policy impact that you are wishing for in terms of either it's a new policy development on a new area, or it's a policy review, or it's policy advocacy, or policy influencing. So whatever it is, that policy brief should be able to do that. We will also have a debriefing session after your training, and we will have some routine checkups either as a group or individually to see how you are doing. So this is more or less what we intend to do in terms of the package. Now, the aim of this training, as I think Dagmar and Vincenzo and Ben has mentioned, is to build your capacities to use tools and instruments on how to use evidence-based policy making to promote decent work in social justice. That's the purpose here, right? And the other objectives is while we're doing that, there is a way of understanding the process of policy making. Who are the stakeholders? What kind of evidence is used? Where would you look for the evidence that you want? How would you appraise the evidence? How would you synthesize and then apply it in your particular field and be able to communicate? So these are the trends that we'll be looking into. While we are doing this, we will explain what ILO does, its priorities for the coming years. We will also define the policy questions for you. Remember, we said policy question is not a research question. It's something that is driving you specifically in relation to your work, right? So that policy question will help you define it, identifying the leading sources of decent work, and conducting systematic and effective searches. How, as I say, you appraise those evidence, review various evidence and synthesis, and how to write policy recommendations. That's something that we will do. And then we will also make sure that you are able to communicate your policy briefs to your audience. Okay, so these are the main purpose of this training. Now, how will we do that? There's a step-by-step process of doing this training. So first one will be consisting of the thematic issues that I mentioned to you already and the issues that you have identified. Then we'll go into the policy development process. What is ILO's policy making process? Searching for evidence. What are some of the databases that you'd want to look into to get the particular type of evidence that you are looking for? How would you evaluate and appraise the evidence that you have got? We will give you some tools and instruments, and how you would start synthesizing the evidence and then be able to communicate those evidence in the form of a policy brief. So that's the process that we will take for the coming 4 weeks. While we are doing this, of course, you will understand better ILO, what it does, how you can use ILO, because this is your organization. And there will be lots of reading materials, quizzes, policy briefs will be given to you while we are doing that. During the trainings that we will give, as I think Dagmar also mentioned, that try to be, participate in the discussions. This is a very practical training. It's not academic. So it's very practical. There will be regular interactions with webinars here. There will be polls, the group discussions, breakout, whatever it is. There will be some interactions and forum and discussions. Vincenzo, do you want to come here?
Yeah, sure. I mean, maybe just a few words about this important aspect, as already said by Naren. My point is simply that of let's try to consider also this as a knowledge sharing process. So it's very important to share the knowledge among each other. So to try to collaborate, and has already been emphasized by Baird and other colleagues, networking is also part of this process. So I will always suggest to keep being interactive, keep being always being engaged, not only during the in-class activities. Again, there will be practical training, will be specific application, brainstorming activities, but also during the distance learning session. In few words, let's try to take advantage of this great opportunity that we have, the campus platform. So as you can see, I've already launched the first topic discussion on the forum, but again, feel free also to open new topic discussion on the forum if you would like to emphasize a specific aspect. Really, don't be shy, just speak up, and open a new topic. It will be great for all of us to try also to navigate this kind of a discussion together. And yeah, as already said before, so the idea will be to keep cooperating each other, and also Naren and Bavika will provide you also with the specific coaching session to work on it, on the definition of your policy brief. So as you can see, your active participation online platform. So speak right again, listen, read actively, encourage everyone to speak right. So it's our job, but also feel free to engage. Don't be shy. And also, it's important also that will be a self-commitment, so a self-paced commitment. So if there are few assignments, as it will be the case, let's try to be precise and be on time on this assignment. But again, if you have any problem with the platform, you can just ask Sophie and me, and we are going to provide you also with further assistance. But again, take advantage of this opportunity to interact not only during this session, but also during the online component on the platform. So that's my strong suggestion. And again, let's consider it as an important also process of knowledge sharing.
Thank you, Vincenzo. Right. What I wanted to mention to you here is, we'll pause here a little bit, right? What I have mentioned. Now, in terms of giving you an assignment of, I want you to just think, or just what was one of the major, how could I say, labor market, world of work issues touching your country, and it was reported in your national newspapers today or yesterday or this week, right? Either it could be increasing youth unemployment in Trinidad and Tobago, it's a major crisis, or there is an issue about negotiation of the minimum wage in your country, or occupational safety and health issues. I want you to take a picture of that news article from your daily newspaper, and then you will have to post that into the assignment section of this session on the eCampus platform, so that we know what's happening in your countries, what is being discussed currently on the world of work issues. So that will be the part of the assignment from this session. So the topics could be any topic on employment, on working conditions. I mentioned migration, informality, apprenticeships, labor rights, the care economy, child labor, whatever it is been currently discussed in your country. Because remember, we are in a training called evidence-based policy making. So these policies, in fact, are discussed and debated through the media and the press in your countries, and that's what we want to know. So in order to be advocating for policies, in order to develop policies, you have to be familiar with what's happening in your countries on that particular topic. And that's why we want you to look into the newspapers, have a look, and then we will also want to know what's happening in your countries, so that you are able to tell all other learners here and ourselves what's happening. Bhavika will explain later in detail about exactly how you can do that. Just take a picture from the newspaper and just post it as your assignment. Right? Now, the last thing I'll mention before we have a short break, the main emphasis of this training is that you should be able to draft a policy brief on a topic that you'll choose using the template we will give you. You should be able to draft a policy question. Right? So on a particular topic that really drives you. So we will, of course, guide you in drafting your policy brief, and it will be step by step, right? When we'll ask you to, okay, identify the stakeholders involved in the policy question that you are dealing. So you'll have to know who are the stakeholders, what kind of evidence are used. And then we'll say, where will you look for the evidence? So we will go progressively step by step. Okay. And then when we'll come to the module 5, how would you then synthesize the evidence? That's where the writing starts. But before you do the writing, there's a built up that you'll have to make sure you follow step by step, not to come at the last minute on the last week and say you want to draft your policy brief. That will be challenging for you. So that's why we'll go step by step. And I just want to motivate you, for some of those who have a little bit of a research mind. The best policy briefs, once it's approved and reviewed by our colleagues at ILO, we will be able to publish your policy briefs. Some of the, I think we have published 20 or so policy briefs for the time being. The best ones that we publish, it's in your own name and that we publish on ILO's website. It's a 4-pager, small policy brief on a topic that you will choose, okay? So your policy questions, your policy question will provide an opportunity for you, in fact, to develop your own skills in the evidence-based policymaking framework that we will give. As I mentioned, it's a gradual process throughout all these training sessions, module by module. And then on the last day of this training, you should be able to communicate your policy question, your policy brief to the audience. It's once you have acquired all the communication tools and tricks that we will give you. So that's about your policy briefs. Now, Vincenzo, maybe who would want to add here is you will be given the certificates only if you have submitted your policy briefs and done all the assignments that has been designed by Vincenzo and his team. Is that right, Vincenzo? You want to add here?
Yeah, sure. I mean, thank you. I mean, for emphasizing this aspect. Yeah, as you know, I mean, this is an important and serious, I mean, course, online course. So, I mean, we expect a real, I mean, an important commitment from your side. So, as always, I mean, we kindly invite you to follow, I mean, the path that has been designed by Naren and by the rest of the team. So, again, only upon successful completion of the assignments and specifically of this important policy brief, you will be then able to be awarded with this certificate of achievement that will be released from the ITCLO, but together also with the signature from the ILO. So again, I mean, our approach is to not leave anyone behind. So we expect also that you will be on track with our path and with our the path that you have designed.
Great, thank you, Vincenzo. Right. Before I go to the next slide, Bhavika, are you there?
Yes, Naren, I'm here now. I had a power cut. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. Can you just explain about the one-to-one coaching if they need? Just explain where it is and how we could do that.
Yeah, sure. So since all of you would have access to the eCampus platform by now, hopefully, if you scroll down, at the very bottom, you will find one particular section which says book a meeting with the trainers. So you can go there and you can click on that. Once you open that section, you will find that it will redirect you to a Microsoft form. You may go ahead and schedule a meeting with either me or Naren or both of us if you like. And you can select the week in which you would like to speak with us. You can select the time zone, and we'll be very happy to connect with you personally and get back to you with the meeting link and the time which would be convenient for either of us or both of us. And we'll be very happy to guide you through the process. If you have any questions which are very specific to your case, or if you would like any advice, any guidance, we'd be very happy to connect with you on that. So I highly encourage you to use this opportunity to connect with the trainers one-on-one. And you may use this opportunity at any point in time during this program, because that link will be available to you starting today until the last day of the training. But hopefully, as we gradually move forward with the modules, scheduling a meeting in say the second week or the third week would be really beneficial, since you will be drafting your policy brief. So we'll be excited to hear from you, and hopefully you will book your meeting soon. Over to you, Naren.
Thank you, Bhavika. Great.
Yeah, Naren, just if may I jump in, just because I saw a question that is maybe an important question in the chat. If you can allow me just to jump in 1 second. Yes, Salmon, all the session will be automatically recorded, and then after the session, all the recordings will be automatically uploaded on the campus. This will be available few minutes after the session. But again, I mean, we encourage you to actively participate in the webinar. So you have the recording, yes, for sure. But I mean, it's very important also to participate during the live sessions. But in any case, don't worry. I mean, all the session will be recorded, and you will have access to these recordings to the campus for the next couple of years. So you will have enough time to review the recordings. Over to you, Naren.
Thank you, Vincenzo. All right. Now I just want to, after going through the objectives, why you're here, how we'll do that, I just wanted to know, how do you feel now? We checked that you were excited. How do you feel now? If you can just check in the... Right. Most of you have answered, I suppose. Mostly excited still. Well, yeah, half of you are excited. Fantastic. We have not lost you. Enthusiastic. That's great. I wanted to just barely there, like cooperative. Yeah, sure, why not? I'm glad that nobody is indifferent, because that's the most challenging behavior we could have as trainers, if somebody is like indifferent, right? So I'm glad that you are mostly excited and enthusiastic. That's fantastic. All right. With this, in fact, what I will do, we'll have a little break now. Vincenzo, I'll hand it over to you, and then when we come back, my colleague, I know Samuel Asfaha, is here. He will be talking about a little bit of ILO, how ILO does its policy making with the social partners, what we call the workers, employers, and the government sit down together on the same table and make policies. And then we will discover a little bit about ILO, what it does, how it does, how it's the governance system of ILO, what are some of the publications of ILO, a little bit of ILO's DNA, what is there, so that you understand why we are doing this training, and so that you understand how it's all connected within our work and our history of ILO. Vincenzo, over to you.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Naren. So we will now reconvene in 10 minutes. In any case, I'm going to share my screen so you can have also a timer, and also offering you some music. Okay. So see you in 10 minutes.
Can you put the music, Vincenzo?
Can you hear me?
No, the music is not there.
Okay. We have some problem with the music. Let me see.
When you share, you share it with the sound you mentioned.
Yeah, it's working in my headphones. I don't know why.
Bhavika, any issues?
Yeah, even I can't hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a problem from my side.
Yeah. So go back again, maybe share with sound, maybe it will work. Yeah.
So you cannot hear it?
No.
Can you now?
No.
Can you hear?
And we don't see it either.
So no music and okay, so I have an issue. Maybe Sophie, can you try with your laptop?
I don't have it.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know. It's quite strange that you cannot hear me, because I can hear it also quite well.
Just the countdown.
Vika, can you do it, please?
Yeah, that's what I'm checking.
Thank you, Vincenzo. Welcome back, everybody. I'm glad to see you. You are as enthusiastic and excited as before. My brother Samuel, just give me maybe 5 minutes before I'll come back to you. But before I'll do that, I just wanted to say bonjour to Mustafa. Is Mustafa there? Mon frère, bonjour. Tu n'entends pas?
Oui, bonjour.
Est-ce que tu arrives à suivre ou ça va?
Oui, ça va dans l'ensemble.
Magnifique. Très bien.
Ça va dans l'ensemble. Je suis if Mr. Maren speak, I understand.
Okay,
because you speak slowly. If you speak slowly, I can follow you.
Very good. Excellent. Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. And I just wanted to congratulate Ryan for getting 10 out of 10 in the pre-cut questions, the multiple choice. So Ryan from Tunisia, well done on that one.
Yes.
Yeah, you got 10 out of 10 in your pre-cut questions.
Okay.
Lovely. Well done on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Listen, what I wanted to share with you a little bit, explain to you what ILO does. It's important to know the basics, where we come from. I think everybody should congratulate Ryan for that, huh? Because she got out 10 out of 10. Yeah, great. Yeah. The other thing is that, I mean, I was saying that we have to go back to the basics and understand what ILO does, why it does, right? And in Samuel Asfaha, who is a great colleague of mine who works with the Bureau of Employers here in the headquarters of Geneva, we'll be talking a little bit about what the DNA of ILO is all about, how you do social dialogue, what we have been hearing about those things. But also Samuel is a great macroeconomist. He was also in the place of Ben Muller a few years ago in ITC, a fantastic trainer himself with lots of experience. But before he comes in, I just want to set you the ground in terms of what ILO does, so that then Samuel will come in neatly and present the social dialogue element. So if you could just bear 5 minutes with me, Samuel, and then we will take it from there. So I just wanted to introduce to you what ILO is all about, the International Labour Organization. Here's a poll that I wanted to put you. How well do you know our ILO? Bhavika? So if you could just
Yes,
answer
Naren, it's up.
yeah, if you could answer that question, how well do you know the International Labour Organization? Let me see. I'm sure Andre, he knows in and out of ILO. Okay, most of you say well, and not some say not so well. Okay, so there's I was expecting Andre to say very well, so that I could then rely on him and ask him to do this session for us. But he didn't fall in our trap. All right. So most of you, I think you were quite well versed with ILO, but I'm sure you'll be surprised to know a few things that you don't know. And that's what I think Samuel will be talking about later on. Another question is here, have you ever taken part in any of ILO's governing body or the International Labour Conference? Let me see. 4 people, 5 people have done. Oh, great. That's well done. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. Governing body. So our job is easier.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
So
So who
So I hear echo. Right. Right. Okay. About nine people took part already. That's great news. All right. In those the 9 people that have taken part in the ILCO, the governing body, what is unique about ILO? Anybody wants to answer that question? What is so unique about ILO?
It's tripartite.
Tripartite, that's the answer. I mean, if anybody asks you any question about ILO, if you say it's a tripartite body, you are 100% always right. And sorry, who was that who answered that question?
It was me, Beatrice.
Oh, Beatrice. Okay, lovely. Yeah. Okay, lovely. Well done, Beatrice. Okay, very briefly, I'll mention to you what ILO does in terms of the issues currently being handled by ILO for this what you call the 2 years 2024 and 25. What ILO is mostly concerned about is one of our major what we call policy outcomes in a very bureaucratic or pragmatic term, a strong modernized normative action for social justice. We'll be talking about that. And what Samuel will be talking about is strong, representative, and influential tripartite constituents and effective social dialogue. And that's where we'll be touching on the DNA of ILO. And the other specific issues is about full and productive employment for just transition, sustainable enterprises for inclusive growth and decent work, gender equality and equality of treatment and opportunities for all. That's our fifth policy outcome. Protection at work for all, where migration issues comes in. Universal social protection or social security, if you want to call it, and all together neatly with an integrated policy and institutional response in order to promote social justice and decent work. And all these things are very well connected with what the United Nations wants to achieve in terms of the Agenda 2030, and of course the UN Secretary General's Our Common Agenda, and all ILO documents about the Social Justice Declaration of 2008, the Centenary Declaration of 2019, and the Global Call for Action that was done after the COVID pandemic. And all these things are neatly well connected with the vision that ILO has now. And of course, this training and the sharing of knowledge is also part of what we call the proposed enablers, where we are able to build all those 8 things neatly together, provided that we build capacities and do research so that you are able to pursue whatever you are doing on those specific areas. With that, I think I will leave the floor here and ask Samuel, who is a dear colleague of mine, who has given his time to bring his wisdom and share a little bit of his practical knowledge on how to do social dialogue and what is the operational mechanisms of how ILO operates on a day-to-day basis. So Samuel, please, maybe you'll do a better introduction than myself, if you could do that. But thank you so much for being here. Over to you, Sam.
Thanks, Naren. Can you hear me clearly? All right. So my name is Samuel Asfaha. So Naren did a very kind introduction, and I should say very. I think it's overwhelmingly kind, actually. Yes, I'm a macroeconomist, and I worked at the International Training Center in Torino for about 10 years. And in fact, I saw Sophie. Sophie was here. Sophie was a great colleague of mine, and we worked together with Sophie. Hi, Sophie. Great to see you. So we worked with Sophie for 10 years together. So it's lovely to be back again to an event where the ITC is at the center of running it. And I'm so delighted to see Sophie. Yes, by training, I'm an economist, and in ITC ILO, I was, for the good 5 years, the last 5 years of my stay in ITC ILO, I was with the employment policy department, where Sophie is also. And then, of course, I moved to Geneva as a senior policy advisor and desk officer for Africa for the Bureau for Employers Activities, where I continue to engage in capacity building for employers organizations in Africa, but also liaising and working together with the country offices, the sub-country offices, and also the regional office that we have in Africa, and also advising Cabinet and the Director General's office in various capacities concerning business environments and employers organizations etc. So I have a very wide portfolio. I'm also a focal point for the research department as well, where I will be providing feedback and comments to a lot of the work that the research department does. And I think with NARAN also we work very, very closely. But one of the main responsibility that I have is also to assist the employers organizations that come from 187 member countries in the International Labor Conference. But also when I say assist, is assisting them not politically, but assisting them technically. So providing the technical, for example, explanations for them to be able to master the nitty-gritties of some of the sensitive topics, and then support them to participate. Currently, for example, you may have heard there's a very sensitive discussion is due to take place in the ILO in 2025 on artificial intelligence and the platform economy. So my job there is now to provide technical assistance and advisory to the employers group. Now, NARAN very briefly did, I think, a sharp introduction of what the ILO is all about. So, and the DNA, what he said, and I like that, the DNA of the ILO is tripartism, obviously. And when we say tripartism, it is about social dialogue. So basically, it's three, employers, workers, organizations, and governments coming together and dialoguing and brainstorming to reach to a consensus. So if there is one thing that is unique about the ILO and tripartism, is the whole purpose is to reach a consensus. It is not to fight, it's about reaching a consensus that works for everybody else. Now, consensus doesn't mean everybody likes the outcome or everybody agrees, but consensus means that everybody is willing to live with that result. You may not like everything about it, but you're okay to live with it. And that's the spirit with which ILO dialogues take place. Now, for many people, if you ask them the ILO, they all will say tripartism, as you guys rightly did, or social dialogue. But the ILO is way beyond that as well. It's not just social dialogue and tripartism. So social dialogue and tripartism are the means by which we do whatever we do. So everything we do, everything that is done in the ILO is done through tripartism and is done through social dialogue. So the governing body of the ILO itself is a good example of social dialogue in action. It's workers and governments and employers organizations coming together and discussing across a lot of topics, which policy issues, strategy issues, how the ILO works. So, the policy outcomes and the programming budget that NARAN just showed you was 8 policy outcomes. This was discussed and adopted by the governing body at the end of the day. And that's, a real life example of how social dialogue works in the ILO itself. And that's the model which the ILO tries to dissipate across the globe, basically. So in member states and everywhere. But so social dialogue could be tripartite dialogue, where government, employers, and workers' organizations come together to discuss on a particular topic that is relevant to the realities of the labor market. So in the national context, in the regional context, international context. But it could also be bipartite in its nature. It could be bipartite agreements between workers and employers' organizations on a lot of issues. It could be on working conditions, organizational safety and health issues. It could be on wage negotiations. In fact, a lot of the bipartite negotiations are on wage-related issues. It could be on particular policy. It can be tax administration. It can be on a macroeconomic policy, which impacts the labor market and the ability of enterprises to function, or how to handle or how to deal with inflation, because it eats up on the purchasing power of workers. So there's a lot of reason why employers and workers' organizations should come together with the government, creating an enabling environment, but the discussion taking place between those two parties. So again, the ILO supports this and develops strategies and so on to create an enabling policy environment at the national level. But we also do create, knowledge. The research department, for example, that's in the business of creating knowledge. They try to do forerunner or frontline research to widen our perspective and understanding about the labor market. or the various variables in the labor market and how these different components in the labor market are related to each other. For example, just to give you an example, if wage rate or real wage in a given country is increased by 5% or 10%, how would that impact employment creation? How would that impact? So you could do different studies. There are different factors to look at. But a lot of other studies, for example, the skills development, skills mismatch, how's that impacting labor productivity, and how's that in turn impacting decent work? So there's a lot of nitty-gritties that we need to know. And the world of work is becoming more and more complex because of technological changes, demographic changes, the climate issues, increasing geopolitical uncertainty, geopolitical turmoil, disruptions in the supply chain, regulatory environments continuously changing. So how is this all thing impacting the labor market? What should we do? What is the best way to deal with this? And then there are the old problems that we've always been struggling with. How do you reduce informality? How do you facilitate the transition of young people who completed school? And how do you help them to transit into the labor market? How do you reduce barriers that women are facing in the labor market? What is hindering their participation in the labor market? So there's a lot of topics that we need to contend on, right? We need to try and understand how these various pieces fit together. Because the world is changing rapidly. Some of the policy tools we have need to be sharpened, changed, adjusted. For us in the Bureau for Employers, for example, business resilience and business continuity is becoming extremely important, because this is the request that we're getting from our constituents, because they get this request from their members. Remember, the members of employers organizations are enterprises, they're companies. And these companies are asking, what is the best way for us to increase our ability to adapt to changes, environmental changes, geopolitical changes? There's a lot of changes that are taking place. So they want to understand what are the determinants of business resilience. There's also questions in terms of how do we, change our human resource management systems in an age of artificial intelligence? What should we do about this thing? How do we motivate people, and how do you build a team in a time when teleworking is becoming the norm? People are working in a dispersed geographical area, and businesses have to accommodate that, because it's the new reality now. Young people want to work from their home. They don't want to be sitting in offices. Otherwise, you lose them to your competitors. So part of this creating a new conducive working environment includes accommodating flexible working arrangements, even within an employment relationship. So how do you do that? So the ILO is in the business of generating knowledge by studying best practices, by studying factors, collecting data and analyzing data, and so on. So we're continuously generating research and knowledge products, developing toolkits and guidelines. So to address both the old questions, the old labor market challenge, such as youth unemployment, inactivity rate among young people, but there are also new topics, as I said, technology, teleworking, the workplace is changing, even integrating the elderly. How do you bring, the silver economy? How do you bring these people back into employment, or give them a fair chance for decent life, even after retirement? The pension systems are under stress. People are living longer. There's population aging going on. So that's what it means by the demographic change that's happening. Managing migration. How do you manage migration? So these are all topics. So the ILO, beyond the, being a house of standards, because everybody knows the ILO also as a house of labor standards, where recommendations and conventions are set, or through general discussions, resolutions are adopted. But beyond that, the ILO is also a house of, or interested to develop knowledge and shed light on many aspects of the labor market. So there's a lot of work being done. So, and research in the ILO is not done by the research department alone. It's every department, every technical unit in the ILO does lots of research, including the bureaus for employers and the bureaus for workers' activities. We do lots of research activities. So research generation and knowledge generation in the ILO is dispersed, very highly dispersed, but to some extent, there are always continuous attempts to coordinate it through various strategies. One being, for example, we have what is called the publishing committee, where we try and see how to kind of coordinate the research activities within the organization. We're also in the business of capacity building. So for me, for example, substantial part of my job is coordinating and managing capacity building for workers' activities in Africa. I'm in charge of Africa. So we have field specialists, meaning we have on ground, we do have people, so in various countries. And their job is to, on a daily basis, talk to the employers' organizations, understand what their needs are, and continuously provide this technical capacity and development support for them. And so my job is to coordinate that. So basically, but the ILO is, again, largely in the business of capacity building and building the capacity of our tripartite constituents, providing policy advisory, providing lots of technical support. So this is how we do our work. Now, everything we do is obviously, governed by the governing body. That's why it's called the governing body, because it governs everything we do. So the governing body adopts our policy priorities, our outcomes, the key areas of our work, and then adopts the budget, because you need a budget to achieve those objectives. And the ILO governing body is democratic and balanced. Now I'm putting democratic under quotation, right? So, but what I'm trying to say is there's equal representation between governments and social partners. So the governing body is composed of 56 titular members or main members, to use a simple English. So this titular 56 members are 28 of them come from the government, and 14 from employers, and 14 from workers. So workers and employers together have the same balance, if you wish, or power with the governments. In fact, the workers and employers in the governing body speak with one voice. So there's they all sit together, but they have one spokesperson. So that spokesperson speaks for all of them. So when the employers say we support something, it's automatically 14 voices. When the workers say they support something, it's automatically 14 voices. But each government speaks for itself. Of course, they may speak saying, I'm speaking on behalf of the European Union, or I'm speaking on behalf of the Africa group, or I'm speaking, they could do that. But when they speak, they would also be speaking on behalf of their individual self. So in fact, in most of the cases, the social partners have more advantage in getting through their agenda, especially if the two agrees. There's always a chance that one government may not agree. Therefore, the governments may not have the majority. So this is to say, it is not government-driven organization. It's in fact, in reality, social partners-driven organization. Of course, in terms of voice, they're all there, but the social partners have more cohesive voice. So it's really, truly tripartite in its operation. And when it comes to the International Labour Conference, and this is where some of the major and consequential decisions are made, and particularly where the ILO sets its recommendations and conventions. Now, for those, in case you're not aware of what conventions are these are binding treaties, which would have the force of law on ratification. Of course, they need to be ratified, but then they would have a force of law in the country, or for the country that ratifies it. Recommendations do not have a force of law, but they are also morally authoritative, because these recommendations are adopted. They embody the agreement of 187 member states about what to do or how to address a particular issue. The latest recommendation, for example, was the recommendation on apprenticeship, so recommendation 208. So that recommendation sets out the policy measures and the actions and measures that governments, donors, workers and employers organizations need to take in promoting apprenticeship, in defending and providing adequate protection to apprenticeship as well. So it addresses both the protection component, but also the promotion component of apprenticeship. So it lays out the measures that are needed to make apprenticeship quality, and at the same time to protect the rights of apprentices and provide a decent working environment, learning environment for apprentices. And the latest convention we have adopted is Convention 190 on violence and harassment, for example. So any country that adopts this or ratifies this would have to give it a full effect of the law in that country. So this is a very, very consequential document. These are legal, international legal instruments, if you wish. And obviously, they're subject to interpretations following the Vienna Convention on Interpretation of Law, because these are treaties. And this is adopted by all the members, 187 member states would be there participating, once again, tripartite participation. And in fact, members cannot vote if they don't have a complete tripartite structure. So if a government decides to come alone, they cannot vote. To be able to vote, they must come with workers' organizations and employers' organizations together. You have to have a full tripartite setting. So the ILO is a very complex organization. True. It's challenging. When you dialogue with many, it's always challenging. But remember, because the outcome of all ILO decisions are negotiated outcomes involving the wider participation of employers and workers' organizations, there is a sense of stronger ownership in them compared to only, for example, intergovernmental organizations' decisions where governments come together and they decide. It's very hard to get the buy-in of a wider society. So in tripartism, there is inclusiveness. But how does tripartism really work, and what are the necessary conditions? So I'll say brief words, and then I think it's better to leave it for questions and discussions later. But in 2 minutes, but tripartism requires independent, and I would like to underline on that, requires independent workers and employers organizations. So independence means they should be independent from political interference from the government. They need to have their independence to be able to effectively represent the views of employers and workers, or companies and workers respectively. Otherwise, if there is fear and intimidation and interruptions of their operations, then we cannot say there will be effective social dialogue. It's also important they need to have the capacity to be able to engage. So in some countries, you have the environment is fine, government doesn't interfere in the work and the operations of employers and workers organizations, but they lack the capacity. They don't have the financial means, they don't have the secretariat, they don't have the required size, and so on and so forth. So they may be institutionally weak. And when that happens also, it's very hard to have a meaningful dialogue. So social dialogue requires capacitated employers and workers organizations, and more importantly, independent organizations. So they can therefore bring their views without fear and intimidation. So those are essential. And we do have challenges in both cases. So freedom of association and the right to collective bargaining is increasingly challenged in many countries. There are some countries where this simply isn't allowed. And it's very hard for employers and workers organizations to give their views and to disagree with governments, because it will have serious consequences in some countries. But again, in most of our member states, generally the environment is fine, but our constituents lack the capacity. And this is where the ILO comes in to try and provide support, both institutional support and technical support, to increase their know-how and capacity development. So all in all, ILO focuses on, yes, standard setting. In other words, developing those regulations, if you wish, that countries can use in their respective countries to govern the labor market. So through conventions and recommendations, or declarations or protocols, but also creates the knowledge through research and so on, and widely disseminating this, and by providing capacity development support to our constituents. So that's what we do in a nutshell. Naren, thank you. Back to you.
Great, Samuel. Really appreciate your insights as an insider who is really involved in, at the policy level. We call, making the sausages. Policy making is like doing the sausages. It can be very looking not great, but in the end, it's a beautiful product that you get. And that's what, in a very, metaphorical term, that Samuel has been involved in bringing about consensus within the employers and, of course, the workers together. So thank you for your time, Sam. I'd open the floor here a little bit to see if there's any questions, any comments, any thoughts that you would like to have. But just to let you know, there's a bigger material about ILO that will be put on the reading material for you about the history of ILO, the constitution, the declarations, how many recommendations are there, what is decent work, what is social justice. All these things will be put neatly on a document for your own reading. But since we have Samuel here, who is a busy man, I know, I would open the floor for you to ask him any question or interact with him. So Vincenzo, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Naren. And thank you, of course, Samuel, also for this insightful introduction. Also, I just joined EPUB team, so I mean, we're not able to catch up just for a few years, I would say. Okay, so yeah, please, let's open the floor. Any question, feel free again to raise your hand or just to turn on the microphone. Again, as already said by Naren, you will have the opportunity to navigate this material, these topics on the learning material, but again, take advantage of these a few minutes to actively interact with Samuel.
Hi, morning, Samuel. Probably I should turn the camera on.
Yeah, thank you, Deidre.
Thank you for your presentation, very informative. Just a quick question. So coming from a government body that is not the Ministry of Labor, I'm not sure what the mechanism is or how it is done as far as invitations to participate in the labor conferences to government entities outside of the Ministry of Labor. Yeah, so that's really my question.
Yeah. Should I answer or should you collect a few more?
Maybe collect a few. Maybe
yeah, indeed. I would like to briefly collect a few answers so we'll have enough time then for discussion. Yeah. So any further question from the cohort? Any also comments also, I would say, no? Samuel, maybe also if you have any comments on the presentation, it would be also important for us. Don't be shy, yeah? Feel free to, just as Deidre say, turn on the microphone and take the floor.
Yeah, there's only wrong answers. There are no wrong questions, so feel free to come in.
Okay, so let's start maybe Clara. Sorry, Clara, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Samuel, for that great and inspiring presentation. I would like to know, you already mentioned some of the aspects that you're focusing, and it was very inspiring thinking on the policy brief we have to prepare. So you mentioned business resilience, teleworking, and an eye on the silver economy. But my question would be if you could summarize or at least just focus on the main aspects you think that are going to be so important in the future. So for you now, which are the main aspects that we should take into account regarding the labor markets and that are going to affect all the labor markets in the near future? I don't know whether you can give 2 or 3 words about that. Thank you in advance.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Clara. And I can say there is also another question from Riefda from South Africa. So please.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, greetings, good morning to one and all, wherever you may find yourselves. Samuel, thank you so much for those insights that you have presented. I'm so keenly interested in finding out from you, you articulately mention the conventions and the force of law that they have. So considering that this particular force that we have as social partners, is there a time frame that is associated with your country domesticating the particular conventions? And at the same time, within that period within which those conventions are being domesticated and you are finding violations or contraventions, what power do you have? You certainly don't want to come to ILC and raise, an objection against your own country as partners that are taking hands here. We are taking 10 steps forward, and then automatically you find within the same breath you are taking a giant, mighty leap backward. So what powers do we have, considering that this is the premier social dialogue vehicle where we engage? We come together and we have fights for 2 years to get to a resolution that is then, embedded in the convention. But the same convention somehow, you really have to hold those accountable at the highest level. So number one, the timeframes for domestication in your own country. And then secondly, what can you do? Certainly you want to hold hands as social partners, because social justice is ultimately, what we strive for. But when we are going slightly left, what powers do we have to resolve, to bring them back to the thin line of divide? Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Riefda. Okay. Any further question? No, I don't see any hands raised, or no one is turning up the phone. So yeah, please. No, please. So Samuel, maybe you can, reflect back to the answer. So the floor is yours.
Thanks, Vincenzo. I'll let me go by the order of the questions. So for the last one is the most difficult ones, and this is a very serious question. Also, one thing that the Committee of Experts on the Applications of Standards in the ILO always talks about that. So they address a question for the for the government that is outside of the Ministry of Labor. Well, the ILO's social partner is the government, and when we say the government, it's usually the Ministry of Labor is our interlocutor. So basically, the invitations always go out to the ministries, and it also goes out to the labor attaches or to the embassies that are based in Geneva, for example. So there's a way of disseminating it to the government, but usually the interlocutor for the ILO is the Ministry of Labor. So it might take different names in different countries, but then it's for the government to accredit anyone. So there's no requirement that all the participants should come from the Ministry of Labor. There's no such a thing. It's up to the government, however they want. So when they do their accreditation, they select whoever is appropriate, who they think is, depending on the topic to be discussed, they choose from whichever ministry. Sometimes from Ministry of Finance, sometimes from Ministry of Planning, to join. The Ministry of Education, we see them if, increasingly if there are discussions on skills development in lifelong learning issues, because again, it's pertinent to the Ministry of Education. So it's really about how the government does its nomination, so in each country. But the ILO has no specific requirement that includes or excludes anyone. It's just the government that has to do the accreditation. The expectation is also that the accreditation includes employers and workers organizations that are the most representative ones. Now, usually there's a debate and conflict if the government accreditates someone from employers and workers organizations that are deemed not to be the most representative. It's not the ILO to raise this issue. It is the constituents themselves that would raise this issue. So they have the right to raise a complaint against their government's accreditation process, saying, the government chose another organization which is not the most representative, and they could do that. Or anything, for example, if the government isn't paying as required to ensure the participation of the social participants and the social partners and so on, because the government should pay, and must pay, for the participation of the workers and employers organizations in the International Labour Conference. That's part of the membership agreement, basically. But with respect to the composition of the government itself, it's just for the government to decide. So if I don't know from which ministry you are, Deidra, but if you come from another ministry, then it's just internally coordinating within the government. It could be maybe through the Prime Minister's office, the President's office, or directly talking to the Ministry of Labor in your country, explaining why it is important for your ministry to participate in the ILC, depending on the topic and how relevant that is to you. But this is entirely an internal issue, and the ILO is not going to be directly involved with it. So it's for the government to decide the composition of its delegates. And it's not uncommon to have big delegates. We have seen many giant delegates running into hundreds. We don't encourage that, but there are countries that come with 200, 300 participants. But I'm not saying it should come big, but I'm just saying that there's always enough space to accommodate. Obviously, it will have a cost implication for the government, but I think as long as the topic is important for various ministries, there shouldn't be a reason why other ministries should be in the composition. But this is an internal issue. So Clara's question, I think, yes, I think currently this new topic, basically emerging topics like business resilience, teleworking, silver economy, just to mention a few, as I said, but there's a lot more. There's the green economy is absolutely important. The ESG, the whole debate on environment, social, and governance issues. So all these are very important issues currently, and the research department is doing a lot of work also on many aspects of this. But for example, on business resilience, one of the key issues is how do you even measure business resilience in the first place? That's one very good research question. We've tried to do some work on that one. What are the most important determinants of business resilience? What should enterprises do to become more resilient? But again, how should the business environment look like to create the conditions that are necessary for businesses to stay resilient? And again, resilience itself, although it's a generic concept, we also need to be very specific, because in each country, the source of or the risk that companies face could differ. In some countries, it's environmental risk that they face. In other countries, it's civil unrest and turmoils. In other places, it's the question of business continuity and disruptions in supply chains and so on. So I think we need to understand the source of possible disruptions, or risk assessment. That's quite critical in each country. Therefore, you prepare, or you make your organizations to be prepared, and the companies to be able to prepare to weather crisis, to be able to have the capacity to adapt. But it also requires change in policy at the government level to allow flexibilities, including access to credit. We've seen this during the COVID-19. A lot of companies were able to survive thanks to generous support from governments. In countries where those supports were not available, thousands of companies, even millions of small and medium enterprises simply disappeared, and jobs were destroyed and livelihoods were destroyed. So again, we need to understand the source of risk and then start mapping where are the possible actions. So there's a lot of angle to explore in terms of the determinants of business resilience, but also companies' actions themselves. What are the actions that companies need to take? Which companies seem to be more resilient, and what is the factors that determine, including the human resource management? It can contribute to a country's destruction or its ability to adapt to changes and become more resilient. So those are practices, how you motivate your workforce, how you get teams to work together, but also the systems deployed within companies. For example, to what extent business operation and processes are automated and digitalized. Therefore, even in times of disruption, such as a pandemic, the business can still continue. So again, during the pandemic, we have seen that companies that invested heavily in digitalizing and automating processes were able to survive. But those that didn't have the technological or the digital infrastructures to be able to continue running their businesses really saw their business suffering. So, but again, digitalization is not always a solution, because the more digital you get, the more vulnerable you could also become for cyber attack and others. So again, how do you deploy? So there's a lot of complexities in that as well. So the solution could become a risk of a source of vulnerability at the same time. So it requires vast thinking. Yes, teleworking has become a norm. Now, first, how do you work? How do you assess productivity in a context of teleworking when you don't have people with you? How do you motivate teams? How do you set up teams to work together? So all of these issues, from human resource management point of view, team motivation, organization of tasks, and so on, is becoming important. So that's why the teleworking is important. The teleworking policies are important, infrastructures to telework. So all of these things are essential. So just to give you an idea, so there's a vast of possibilities to explore there from a research point of view. REFDA's question is the most difficult one. Now, I am not sure if there is a period of domestication from when a country signs where a country simply signs a convention and accepts a convention, adopts a convention. So usually the usual practice is 1 year. And I think countries first, they just don't sign on conventions. I know some countries do. My own country does. They just come. The president, whenever he passes by Geneva, he signs on a convention, just to create a nice mood. And there's no thinking, there's no internal consultation in the country to see what the adoption process would look like. What are the implications of the convention? What preparations need to take place? Because it requires adaptations, policies need to adapt. Probably some legislations and regulations need to change. So everything needs to be in line with the convention. So it requires some study before adopting it. So, but once it is signed in Geneva, usually the kind of the expectation is within 1 year, you start giving it a force, right? The force of law. So that's the expectation. So it's domesticated within a year or so from the day it is signed. But usually countries need to start the process before. But again, some ratifications, for them to be fully domesticated, it could take longer, 5 years, even 10 years. And this is why ratifications are always slow. So from the day the convention is adopted at the conference, the ratifications are a very gradual process, because some countries, they look at their institutional structure, legal structure, and they realize that they're absolutely far from the convention. So they need to do a certain adjustment and do a lot of studies at home before then you ratify it, because when you ratify it, you have to domesticate it. Ratification means domesticating it, making it consistent with the national law. But violations are...
Sorry, Samuel. Sorry
Yes.
I apologize for intervening, but just I wanted to mention, if we can, that we should need to speed up a little bit, because we're already
I'm actually
10 minutes into
I don't
extra
have the
time.
answer.
Sorry.
I don't have the answer to this question. I'll say this is a very complex
Yeah,
question.
no. Actually, I didn't want to intervene, because when there are like thought-provoking intervention, it's always nice to go ahead with the discussion. But just to mention that.
No problem.
Okay.
I'm wrapping
Thank
in a
you.
couple of minutes. Just to give a very brief idea.
Sure.
This is
Thank
the
you.
reason why we do have all these cases of, again, in the CAS, the Committee on Application of Standards in the ILO and the ILC, basically. It is because, unfortunately, there are different interpretations of the law or the convention itself. And this is also common. So there may be violations, clear violations, but again, sometimes it's also a question of interpretation. So those also happens. Therefore, first it comes to the Committee of Experts, where the Committee of Experts gives its opinion or interpretation about the convention, its applications. But if there are persistent cases, then I think, of course, the best thing is to try and find a solution through dialogue at home, and the ILO encourages dialogue and continuous conversation. And dialogue is like a bicycle, all right? So as long as you keep negotiating, things haven't really fallen apart. Until then, you stop to have a meaningful conversation. One isn't listening to the other, and you start getting frustrated. And I think at that point, the only solution is then to hear the views of outsiders, which means you bring it to the committee. First, you bring it to the committee of experts, and then bring it to the committee on application of standards. So you start looking at a solution, maybe through ILO's support. But obviously, interpretations or differences in interpretations are really common, and it happens everywhere. But I think what is essential is to really engage and continue to engage in dialogue. And as I said earlier, dialogue is a slow process. It may take longer, but it's the best solution. I think the best solution is a negotiated solution. It may not entirely fulfill your desire, but you can get a result that you can live with. Yeah, thanks, Vincenzo. So back to you.
Thank you, Samuel. Again, I didn't want to interrupt.
No problem. You didn't.
No, also because, I mean, when there are, again, these like thought-provoking discussion, let's say, it's always nice to go ahead and to keep the debate open. So that's why.
Yeah.
But in any case, I hope that, I mean, your reply, I mean, let's say, touched upon the topics that indeed were interesting to the participants who asked the question. Specifically, I mean, to Clara, and to the last one by Riefda, and of course also the one from Diedra. Okay, so if there are no further questions, well, thanks again to Samuel for joining us for this important reflection, and also for, I mean, again, bringing here his own experience and expertise over the years with the ILO, and it was extremely appreciated, I'm sure, also because it was a great session today. I'm very glad that we had the opportunity to start with this interesting discussion about the ILO with you, Samuel. And now I would like also to give the floor to Naren. I guess he would like to also to mention a few other things, and then we can wrap up and close today's session.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sam, once again for your excellent insights and of course the questions that were generated. And I'm sure there were many more questions to come. But I think we're running out of time. I'm extremely sorry about that, and we have gone beyond the time. But you know, there's so much, you know, passionate discussions within ILO. I know amongst colleagues and, you know, our constituents about the mechanisms of ratification, about, you know, how to handle social dialogue and tripartism. We will talk in the coming days. Let me mention that if you want to generate some discussions and ask for some more response, you have the forum within the eCampus platform. I'm sure Bhavika and Vincenzo are nodding their heads now, and I'm sure they would also want to mention that so that we can continue our discussions on that. Now, I know we are running out of time. So what I will tell you for Friday's menu is we will be really going into the nuts and bolts of evidence-based policy making, right? Understanding the mechanisms. So please do your assignments, and Bhavika will mention, and Vincenzo will close off on that. Please do your assignments, do your reading. When you come on Friday, you will be well prepared, so then we can hit the ground as fast as possible without going to the generalities, right? Anyway, thank you very much for your active engagement. I'm so pleased to be with you, but also I'm here to learn from you. Well done, Bhavika and Vincenzo, over to you.
Yes, thanks, Naren. I'll just quickly go, only 2 minutes it would take. So there are 3 points that I want to mention. First of all, you will find that today we had presented 2 slide decks. One was a welcome slide. Second was an introduction to the ILO. We couldn't complete the whole deck in entirety, but you will find these 2 slide decks uploaded in the reading section of the first one, which is the opening. If you check your eCampus platform, you will find both of these slide decks in PDF format, and we highly encourage you to go through that. Second, you will find that there is a post-session quiz. Again, for you to access the next session on Friday, you will have to first complete that quiz, which you will be able to attempt once you go through the 2 slide decks. And third is an evaluation. wherein we will really appreciate your feedback on how you found today's session to be. So these 3 points, I'll also drop this information on the chat so that you may copy it and keep it in your notes. For you to access the session on Friday, these 3 steps would be necessary to be taken. So hopefully you will be able to find time and do all of these 3 by the time we see you again later this week. Thank you all, and over to you, Vincenzo.
Thank you, Bavika, and also thank you to Naren. So just a few words from my side. Also, don't forget to start from the very beginning. So from the pre-cut question, this will be again a survey that will allow us also to have to assess the level of knowledge at the beginning of the session. So in order to access then the opening and all the other modules, you have to start from the pre-cut survey. That's very important. After that, as already said by Bavika, there will be these few further activities that require your active participation. That can be access to reading materials, submission of the post-quiz session, and so on. So I'm sure that we can you are ready to go ahead for the next session. Just last but not least, you will find also the recording will be uploaded automatically after this session. Let me also copy. Okay, great, Bavika, thank you. Thank you all for being with us today. It was really a great opening. I hope you enjoyed this session. Thanks to the team for all the efforts, and see you in 4 days next Friday. Thank you all, and have a nice day ahead. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sam. Great. Thank you.
Bye now.